Okay, I'm Robert Brune here with DC Media Group and EnviroNews TV. We're here at the White House for the Reject and Protect event. This is the conclusion of a week-long encampment at the National Mall. We're here at the White House with
Cizik,
from New
Evangelical Partnership for the Common Good. Yeah. We are the new evangelicals.
Okay, so what can you tell us about this event and your experience with it?
Oh, fantastic event. It's an opportunity for evangelicals to say we're part of this movement that opposes not just Keystone, but opposes the degradation of our environment, the destruction of the biosphere, everything that we believe God has called us to take care of. In other words, that's what God said to us in the Holy Word of God. Care for it and protect it. We believe this is our responsibility to do that as evangelical Christians, and so that's why we're here. And frankly, there's no greater misapplication, no greater misunderstanding of that responsibility to care and protect the earth today than this decision this White House has to make about Keystone. Because it is a litmus test issue of whether or not we will do that, care for the earth.
One of the points that had been made all week long was the cowboy and Indian alliance.
Yeah.
It's not a very traditional concept, and with your group working towards the climate change.
We're not the traditionalists. Right? Yeah. We're not the traditionalists. I mean, we're the new evangelicals. That's why we're new.
Right. And how are you seeing maybe more traditional people responding to you? Are you bringing
Are we
more
bringing people
to
our cause? Yeah. Now, it's true that the climate movement is strongest among younger evangelicals. And younger evangelicals don't have a problem with science the way a lot of older evangelicals do. So, the traditional barriers of evangelicals to joining the environmental movement include, one, suspicion of mainstream science, an adherence to kind of a free market economy, an affiliation with the Republican Party, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, a lot of evangelicals over 50 years of age would be suspicious of the environmental movement. Well, the younger evangelicals aren't suspicious. They accept the science. They understand our biblical responsibility to care for the earth. And they are the ones who are also saying reject Keystone because they see why Keystone Pipeline is the antithesis of caring and protecting the earth. And so, we're winning new evangelicals to our cause all the time. But particularly, it would be fair to say among the young.
I'm very curious as to the process. When you approach groups who are not used to the science message, how do you approach that?
Well, with an understanding, first of all, that we're part of them. In other words, if they're evangelicals in traditional churches who've never considered this an important issue as part of faith, we approach them, first of all, by saying, we are one of you. We are evangelicals. We take the Word of God seriously. We are born-again evangelicals who follow Jesus. So we build a bridge, first of all, with those critics, those who are suspicious. Build a bridge theologically, biblically, experientially, and then having done that, they're more likely to listen to us. And, very importantly, the Bible is clear. They just have never read it that way. I mean, you can read the Bible personally, but if you never read it for its social message, you have a truncated gospel. You don't have the real gospel of Jesus if you take away any of the Bible's teaching about our social or public responsibility. But see, there have been these hurdles for decades by traditionalist evangelicals to understanding how the scriptures themselves lend to an understanding of what is our role. And some of that is because theologians themselves haven't connected the dots.
Right.
And I can cite for you a scholarly research that indicates between 1970 and the year 2000, the percentage of evangelical writers, theologians, professors who have written books on these topics of the doctrine of creation never connected that doctrine of creation to our public responsibility. And all the books that are written over a 30-year period, 0% of those books connected the dots to our personal public responsibility. And that's why you have a whole generation older than 50 that doesn't get it. Why? Because their pastors or teachers and their leaders never taught it, and they were never taught. And so this is really a revolution. It is a biblical awakening. We call it the Green Awakening. There was in American history the Great Awakening. Well, this is the Green Awakening, and it's very, very significant because once people get it in their brains and in their hearts, what we're talking about, they'll never go back. And the other consequence, which is why the other side is so heavily funded in opposing us, is that once somebody begins to understand this truth about what the Bible really does teach about the care of the earth, then they begin to question as well their lockstep affiliation with the Republican Party. Because, see, the Republican Party is the biggest impediment to action on climate change. So the reason why that the Koch brothers, the big power players in the Republican Party, Karl Roves of the world, want to keep the evangelicals on the reservation. By the way, the reservation was never a great place to be. But anyway, those of us that are off the reservation, like me, and that's what they accuse me of being off the reservation, are off because that's right. We don't submit our faith to a political ideology, a Republican ideology. We won't do that because it's heresy to do it. It's a denial of all that faith is, to submit it to a political ideology.
Okay. So what are some of the projects you're working on coming up?
Well, we're working on opposing Keystone Pipeline, but look, we work on equal ground policies so that the Obama administration won't be giving out our public lands to oil and gas companies like they're doing right now, a 2-to-1 advantage. So we're working to push the administration to approve more monuments, wilderness areas, parks, and rec for the American people. But we're working on a lot of different issues that relate to the environment, including support for the Obama administration's EPA regulations on power plants. They're really important. And look, I can speak to this very personally because if you've ever been a parent and had your son wake up in the morning gasping for air saying, "Hey, Dad, I can't breathe," as I did, and you discover soon he has asthma, and you know from living in Virginia what the particulate in the air is like and how that aggravates asthma, then you begin to say, well, where does that come from, that particulate?
So how can people engage with New
Evangelical Partnership? Well, we have a
That's a
website.
hard one.
Yeah, New Evangelicals. Well, you can go to our website, newevangelicalpartnership.org. Check us out. We're readily accessible. We're out all the time on these issues, environmental issues in particular. We know because the critics are always attacking us. I mean, if we weren't doing anything good, they wouldn't be bothered by the fact that what we're doing, but they know how influential we are. And the opinion polls prove it. The younger evangelicals are in statistically significant numbers moving from Republican to independent. So they're not ready to move over to the Democratic Party, and we're not telling them they have to do that. We're just telling them they have to get right by God on care for creation. But when they get that in their heads and their hearts, then they know they have to move from being in lockstep with the Republican Party to being independent. They know they have to do that. Pardon me?
To start thinking for themselves.
They have to think for themselves.
Correct.
Why would you want to turn over your brain to any political party, right or left? You just can't do that. You need to follow the scriptures, follow God's leading, and He will reveal it to you, is what we say to our traditionalist friends. God will reveal to you what you should do. We're not going to tell you every jot and tittle what your responsibility is, but if you get right what it is the scriptures teach and you study the scriptures, there's no question but that you will have to get active in caring for this planet and this earth because it is in peril. That is indisputable. It is in peril. And climate change is changing the world faster than any of us or any of the scientists even knew heretofore. Faster.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thank you.